All right. So I was having a bit of trouble figuring out what my next video was going to be because, first of all, I am still working on my consent video. I'm still looking for my notes on that. That's coming up momentarily for those who are up to date about what I'm trying to put out. And I just did that plagiarism inspiration video with Resident Evil, so I decided to do another Resident Evil video before working on any other thing. I'm also working on a video about Netflix picks and bricks, my top picks to watch and top bricks to throw away in the trash because why are they here? But that's another story for another video. Today, we will be discussing what is and what is not a Resident Evil game. Now, I have been called many things in some of the comments relating to how I talk about Resident Evil. Some say it's passionate, others say it's mean. And a little sidebar before we get into this. I have watched a lot of YouTube videos about Resident Evil, just people not even discussing lore, just berating people who like the game. And that is not me. I wouldn't consider myself mean at all, considering there are people on YouTube talking about you are subhuman if you like Resident Evil 8. I think that's insane, and I think that's extreme. I don't think I've said anything on my channel that was as extreme as that. I may be like, y'all are stupid, y'all are this, that, and the other. Like, okay, it's just like, I don't know if you have a college degree. I don't know if you don't have a college degree. I don't know if you've got street smarts or whatever. It's just generalization. I'm not dehumanizing someone because of a video game. That's something I've never done and will never do because that's just stupid and dumb. That's stupid. But, honestly, this is a very sensitive subject because Resident Evil, even Resident Evil 6 doesn't get as much hate and love at the exact same time. A lot of people hate Resident Evil 6. A lot of people didn't even buy the game. I bought the game. I have the disc right in front of me, in my hand. So I wasn't one of those people because I didn't know what I was in for when I bought the game because it looked good. Chris kind of looked kind of like Chris. You guys kind of got his face looking strange, a little strange. I don't understand how you guys can make Claire look similar. Claire, in Resident Evil 2 Remake, none of them look good. Leon looks baby-faced and ugly. I know he's supposed to get older and whatnot, but he looks baby-faced and ugly. I don't like that face. It's disgusting. It's disgusting. But y'all need to get it together with Chris's model. It's starting to get comical at this point. Now the model's fine, but the voice sounds like Carlos. That's so dumb. And oh my goodness, I cannot believe you guys are just acting like that doesn't exist. In every single review I've ever seen about Resident Evil 8, another sidebar, I have never once heard anyone talk about, wait a second, why didn't this voice actor try? Why did he use the same voice that he used for another character in the same universe? It just doesn't make sense. It just doesn't make any sense. They should have got a different person, and they should get a different person for 9 if Chris is going to have to be in that one, or whatever revelations or whatever crap you're trying to peddle to us next time. But back to what I was saying before. No game gets more people going to bat for it and also going to war for it than Resident Evil 4. And I get the sentiment, but I don't understand the conclusion. How can anyone say Resident Evil 4 is a good game? A good Resident Evil game? Why do we have to separate the difference for y'all to understand? You can have fun playing a game all you want to, but that doesn't mean it fits. I've said in prior videos, what if you turned on your game system or your computer, booted that crap up, try to play a game, you know what's the end result of that game. If you want to play a basketball game and you see football and you're a linebacker, are you satisfied with that game? You can't say, well, it's a great football game, not a good basketball game. You bought a basketball game. I bought a Resident Evil game, therefore I should get Resident Evil content. Not Silent Hill, not Outlast, not Left 4 Dead, not Dead or Alive. Resident Evil. That's what I bought. So don't tell me, don't come at me, don't come at anyone when we say this is trash, this is crap, because it doesn't represent what we want. Now, I want to clarify some things. I've always talked about how Resident Evil 7 and 8 were more like movies than anything. There has been a hint of cinematography within Resident Evil games. They've always been sort of kind of like movies. Resident Evil Code Veronica, for instance, and this is what this video is going to basically be about. Me telling you what is and what is not a Resident Evil game. Resident Evil 4 is not a Resident Evil game. Resident Evil Code Veronica is a Resident Evil game, despite the cinematography involved in this cutscenes and whatnot. When the cutscenes turn on, the bars come down and it looks like a movie. That's spectacular. When you make your game into Call of Duty and then add like cinematography like they do in 7 and 8, it is no longer a Resident Evil game. It's a slippery slope, and I'll help you get across this freaking thing, okay? Any naysayers who love Resident Evil 4, this video is for you, because I am here to tell you Resident Evil 4 can be the greatest game to you on Earth, but it is not the greatest Resident Evil game. I have proof. I have evidence. And Resident Evil Code Veronica, X or whatever, I played X personally. I've got X, the disc. So those are the two discs. So that's the one I'm going to be talking about. So let's start, right? Let's start. So one flaw that I always talk about when I talk about Resident Evil 4 is the action. Even Resident Evil 1 didn't have enough space to have that much action. As long as you're shooting a gun, it's action, okay? Let's just get that out of the way. It's not the fact that there's action in the game. It's that there's too much action in Resident Evil 4. Resident Evil Code Veronica had tons of action. But what it didn't have was explosions and all this, that, and the other every 2 seconds. The explosion happened at the end. That's a sort of staple at this point, honestly. Every time it's like blow up, fly into the distance. So many things came, like, it was basically like a book. You had your conflict, you had your rising action, you had your resolution. Everything worked its way out. But Resident Evil 4 seems like it's just on a trip of madhouse out here. We are like freaking action everywhere, jumping off the walls. And then we're hindered with a person that can't defend themselves. And that was the introduction. Ashley Graham was the introduction of the reason why Moira exists, the reason why Tabitha, or whatever that girl's name is, exists in Resident Evil Revelations 2. Resident Evil Revelations 1 did not have your co-op character. I don't believe you could play as them. I don't believe. But correct me if I'm wrong in the comments. I have not played that game in a long time. In fact, I think I actually have that game on 360, and I don't know if I'll be able to play it because I don't know how to play on Twitch on 360. I just know that there's an app on Xbox One, and I don't even know where my Xbox 360 is. It's somewhere in some of these boxes. But like, so many bad things came out of Resident Evil 4. A lot of bad things. And one of them was the hindered co-op character. Because we eventually play as Sherry. I had like a sidebar. I love sidebars. But sidebar. I have this hypothesis that Ashley Graham was Sherry Birkin. And that kind of goes out the window at Resident Evil 6. But I hate Resident Evil 6 and I don't believe it to be canon. I don't believe anything from 5 on to be canon because it didn't make any sense. Wesker, you're going to kill your bread and butter. Really? It's just like when the Arkham City, just like Arkham Knights and Arkham whatever, those Arkham games killed off Joker. And they're like, okay, so what now? They couldn't even get Mark Hamill to come back and voice the Joker because he's like, you're a joke. Why did you kill me off? Like, this, like, it makes no sense. You're still trying to make a Batman game. That's why they had to go in the past. That's why they had to go in the past, because they knew they had no other way to keep it going. Yes, there are tons and tons of villains in Arkham and in Gotham. But guess what? No one wants them. No one wants them. That's why they went to the past. You guys don't understand. When people, like, make these decisions, y'all don't even consider what the people who are actually buying your games want. You're just like, oh, that'll be cool. Let's kill off the main villain. Haha. And then what? We've got Alex Wesker for one game in Resident Evil Revelations 2. And it's like, whatever. Why did you build her so much for her to just die? And I don't care if her consciousness is put in Natalia or whatever, because she's a little girl. If anyone found that out, neck snapped. She doesn't have magical power. She doesn't have magic. She doesn't have supersonic speed. She's a little girl. Why wouldn't you put your consciousness in Claire or Jill or Chris or some super soldier that's got all the virus cocktail up inside them? Why wouldn't you do that? You're just going to get this random girl that we don't know. She's not related to anyone in the canon. Y'all just are pathetic. Get better writers. Get better writers. That was a crap show. That was a crap fest. But I digress. So, Resident Evil Code Veronica does have action, right? It does have action. You can't deny that. But it's not about action. There are so many aspects of Resident Evil Code Veronica that cancel out all the things that people like to critique about it. Like, oh, the cheesiness. Resident Evil has always been kind of cheesy. Have you played 1? Have you played 2? Have you played 3? I haven't played 3. But I know 3 is where most of the action takes place, because guess what? It's more outside. I get why there's more action in 3. I can even say 3 doesn't have as much action as 4 does. And I have a problem with Resident Evil 4 as well, aside from everything I've already said. Resident Evil 4 makes no sense when you play the game. Okay, so let's just start from the beginning. Leon was told by the president, supposedly, hey, because you're so good at all this stuff, you're trained and whatnot, he's a special agent, go find my daughter in this place where everyone speaks Spanish, but you don't speak Spanish. He did not know. They did take her away, and yes, there could have been some hostile situations, but the first scene we see with Leon is him walking into someone's house. And he's like, do you know who this girl is? If he was going to go to the locals and ask them where she was, instead of going in there guns blazing, like, I have no idea what America expected to do other than that, you should have brought someone who knew Spanish. He literally walks up into someone's house, and for all we know from the beginning of the story, the villagers could have been nice. So, like, he didn't say nothing. He didn't say anything in Spanish. He doesn't know Spanish. So, like I said, why not put Carlos inside this game with Leon if you had to have your white knight, despite Carlos being voiced by a white actor? If you must have Leon, the white knight that everyone loves for some reason, he always gets his own movies. He's got more movies than Claire. Claire is in some of his movies, but he's got more movies than Claire, which is stupid because Claire is an original character. Leon is the side piece of Resident Evil 2 and the remake. Bub kiss on anyone who says otherwise. You don't know the lore. You don't know what you're talking about. Claire's the main character. Leon is the side character. Every Resident Evil should have a main character and a side character, regardless of how long you play them. Just like Steve Burnside, he was a very minor character, but Resident Evil Code Veronica, Chris was the side character of that game because he came later. It's Claire's game, but whatever. So since there's no co-op or anything, you guys shoehorned Ada Wong near the end of the game, near the end of Resident Evil 4. And I'm like, okay, whatever. So like I said, y'all just dropped the ball on Resident Evil 4. And I have no idea why people say it's a good Resident Evil game or game at all, really. Because it just throws everything out the window. It's the first time we're introduced to just freaking parasites. and excludes zombies entirely because nowadays there's a mixture and that's fine. Mixture is 100% great. But it's when we're introduced to, oh, parasites can only be a thing. Nemesis was the first ever introduction of them using a bioweapon and using a parasite to control them. Like, Evil Code Veronica, Wesker wasn't using a parasite to control the hunters. They were controlled electronically. And honestly, Leon and Ashley Graham being cured proves that they can be saved. And yes, Jill was saved and Claire was saved and other people were saved in the history of this shindig, this franchise, before turning. However, there is a point of no return with viruses. Once you're infected, you're infected. However, Jill survived. She's one of few people of the canon who survived past the point of no return. As horrible as I know his character is, and Steve Burnside is the only person to come back and control his stuff and die a human. Everyone else, like, even, and you can see in Resident Evil 8, they crumble and die after they're defeated. They take too much damage. Their body can't take anymore. His body literally returns back to human form. Like, that's insane. That's insanely powerful. That's why Wesker did take his body at the end of Resident Evil Code Veronica. And Leon was already churning. He attacked Ada. So when we get into Resident Evil 4, we're not even talking about zombies anymore. We're talking about people who are infected with a parasite. And I'll have you know that this isn't the first time parasites existed. And for the fact that people are saying, oh, Resident Evil is a BOW, it's a BOW / zombie / everything else, okay? I'm not here to argue whether Resident Evil is a zombie game or not. It is. It is. Add everything else too. It's a BOW game too. It's a zombie game too. We can add the two, you know? We can add that in there. We don't have to just say it's a zombie game, close the book, and that's it. Don't even wait for the ink to dry, like Brienne of Tarth style. Like, we don't have to close the book on that. We can say Resident Evil is about more than one thing. Silent Hill is about more than one thing, and people accept that. Everything is about more than one thing. Call of Duty, I started talking about Call of Duty and people were getting offended like, oh, don't like, I like the story. Like, first of all, everyone plays Call of Duty for online. Get out of here. I've never played the campaign for any Call of Duty game. Maybe for people who are like in the military or something that like that type of stuff or whatever. I don't know why you would have that job and still want to do that on the sidelines, but whatever. I'm just like, okay. But I digress from that. Resident Evil 4. I have to re-say this because I'm like talking about a lot of Resident Evil games. And if it's kind of like repetitive, it's solely because I'm trying to help you guys keep up because I like talk like really fast and I move to different situations and move to different topics really quickly. So that's why I reiterate which Resident Evil I'm talking about before continuing. So Resident Evil 4. Like, let's see what we've got here so far. Too much action. No zombies. You sent a white person to a Spanish-speaking country or place with no Hispanic person. Carlos wasn't in this game. There's no co-op. You get to play as Sherry / Ashley Graham or whatever. No weapon. Can't even defend herself. You have to complete the game in order to get some armor so that she can't be carried away. All she does is scream. She doesn't even punch. She doesn't try to do anything. No little knife. She is literally weaker than Moira, and Moira is the weakest person in the game canon. She is the weakest person. I don't care what you say. That stick ain't doing nothing to zombies. Like, why didn't she just pick a gun? I had like 6 guns in my inventory. She could have took one of those things. I hate being hindered in these types of situations. It's just like, yeah, okay, survival horror. It's kind of like a joke when they do that. Because yes, survival horror. But Resident Evil 1 had ammo. Like, let's go back to the very beginning, okay? Resident Evil 1 had ammo. So don't tell me that you have to take away our guns and our resources to survive in order to have a survival horror game. Survival horror game means limited of these things, not zero. This isn't Amnesia. If I wanted to play Amnesia, I would freaking play Amnesia. That's not what I want. So there has to be a special balance between having limited ammo and resources to survive and having nothing. And having too much as well. Too much ammo, too much space. And then where did our boxes go to put stuff in? Resident Evil 4 introduces that thing where you just put it on the side so you can rearrange your crap. That's not good enough for me. I miss the times when you had an actual safe box to put stuff in. How come we don't have that anymore? Where'd the safe box go? That is something that is in Resident Evil Code Veronica. The safe boxes are there so that when Chris comes, he can get all the stuff and all the weapons that he needs. And another thing, with co-op, it's not always a thing where I have to have someone right next to me. Like Resident Evil 0 has you play as Rebecca and Billy at the same time. Resident Evil Code Veronica does a very cool thing where you think you're going to play the whole game with Claire. Well, technically you don't because you already have 2 discs, but like someone who doesn't know the game and hasn't played it before, it's a cool experience to know, wow, she's in trouble. What am I going to do? And then that email you sent out to Leon, he actually did something. He got off his stuff and actually did something. He called Chris, gave him the coordinates, and that's how he finds you. It's like so cool. And Chris is such a cool person. He's made into a joke now. Like Resident Evil 8 makes him stupid. Resident Evil 7 makes him unrecognizable. Resident Evil 6 makes him unreliable. Stumbling and tumbling like he's some rookie. Obsolete. Resident Evil 6 makes him look like he's obsolete and doesn't need to be a part of any task force. Because he's like, oh, everyone keeps dying around me. That's literally a new thing. Just saying, that's a new thing. Chris was the hero in Resident Evil Code Veronica. He was built up to be this great, grandioso person. Claire won't shut up about Chris the entire time. Every time she's talking to Steve Burnside, oh, he'll get here. And then he's like, oh, he won't. Da-da-da-da. And I know it's because he's got a problem. He's got family drama. But honestly, Claire builds him up and rises Chris up to be this great person. And he does deliver. In Resident Evil Code Veronica, he does deliver. He's a pilot. He freaking gets the jet plane and flies out of there. Who else can drive? I can't drive no jet plane, but he can. And I thought that was really cool. She couldn't leave without him. He was over there tussling around with Wesker in that game. And she was sitting there while everything was exploding. She could not leave the island without him. She can't drive no jet. He can drive a jet. He's one of the only people in canon. I don't even know if Jill can. Like, I'm not going to drop Jill and just say she can't. But I have no idea if she can. It hasn't been proven that she can fly no jet plane. And supposedly in canon, it is true. It is confirmed that plane that he drove out of the Arclay Mountains or whatever it's called was one of the hardest fighter jets to fly, and he flew it out of there and got them to safety. So I think it's really interesting that between 6, 7, and 8, Chris is like this person who can't keep people alive and can't do nothing and is horrible and won't tell people things and has no heart or soul to tell Ethan, hey, yeah. And here's what I will give them. I will give them this bone. Because I have to. Because I am such a Chris Redfield, I'm such a Redfield stan that I must say this. This is the only bone I will ever give to 8. So like mark it on your calendars right now. This is the day that I give a bone to Resident Evil 8. So this is why I think that Chris did not tell Ethan, hey, Mia is this thing and we got to destroy her and I got to take your daughter because they're trying to take her. I believe he thought that Ethan was also, they didn't know who Mother Miranda was because she can shapeshift. Who's to say she can only shapeshift into women? What if he thought that Mother Miranda was Ethan? And in that case, if that is the case, he shouldn't have said anything to Ethan. He shouldn't have said, no, this is out of your depth. No, he shouldn't have said nothing to Ethan before going into the village, okay? This is prior to being captured. He should have just knocked him out. There needed to not be no, why are you doing this? Oh, why? And it would have been cool. It would have been interesting to have seen. It would have built up the ending better if he would have shot him, because then he would have been like, well, how am I still alive? Then it would have been like, oh, you're dead. Oh my goodness, that's insane. It would have been more of a build up if Chris went in there guns a-blazing shooting Mia and Ethan. But y'all had to have that thing that you put into the trailer. Literally, the trailer was every scene that we get with Chris. There's no other scenes except a little bit, like little tiny scenes in Heisenberg's factory. We don't get no other scenes with Chris. And then we see him at the end, and that's it. Literally, that's it. Just saying. But he should have went in there guns a-blazing, killing Mia and Ethan, because who knows who Mother Miranda is. She can shapeshift. She could be that towel over there. So I really don't understand why we had to get this whole thing with making Chris look stupid once again and saying, oh, I couldn't tell you because there wasn't enough time. And then having his underlings chastise him about doing that when he knew good and well that that wasn't a good idea to just leave him out of the loop. But regardless if it was a good idea or not, no underling should be talking to the almighty Chris Redfield like that. It's disrespectful, but whatever. Back to Resident Evil 4, because I kind of went on this thing about Chris. But it's honestly, it sucks because Resident Evil Code Veronica really makes Chris out to be one of the heroes. Like, they make Chris out to be what Leon is today. Everyone loves Leon because he can do no wrong. He hasn't done anything wrong. They've made him do nothing but cool things, gave him no character other than being the cool guy. He's Tony Stark mixed with Deadpool with less vulgarity, because he's not that vulgar at all. I don't even think I've heard him say that many curse words, but he's basically everything you know about Deadpool without the vulgarity and he's kind of more stoic and less comical, but he's very comical in Resident Evil 4 for no reason, really. And I, for one, wouldn't be that comical in a place where I didn't know the language. Literally, it's insane. It's insane. Y'all were so dumb. Y'all love Anglo-Saxons so much, and y'all love whiteness so much that you have to, like, disregard any ethnic person in this game. Literally, the whole thing where it's a joke that the black person dies first, it's really actually problematic because it's so that they don't have to pay ethnic people, if they are voiced by that person, to be in it any longer than they have to. That's the real reason why the ethnic person or the black person usually dies first in movies, because they want them off the set as soon as possible. Okay, your scenes are done. Leave. Bye. Here's your $2 while everyone else gets actual wages. That's why. Just to let you guys know. That's the only reason why they die first. It's so that they don't get paid. I digress from that, okay? I digress. Resident Evil 4, it's bad because, like I said, if we're going back to the very beginning, the reason why we didn't have that much excitement and explosions and whatnot in 1 is because we were in a small, close place. 2, we actually get to go outside, but there's not that many, as much action as we get, it's not that much, okay? 3 is where the action heats up. It's great. I actually like that aspect. But guess what? It also gives you options. It said, oh, do you want Jill to jump down here or do you want Jill to jump over here? Gave you 3 different endings. Resident Evil 4 takes out the multiple ending aspect. It takes out the inventory case, the storage space. It adds a merchant that no one knows where he came from. And if you kill him, you're screwed. You don't really need him, but he gives you these things that you used to just find out places. You used to have to actually search the ground because Resident Evil Code Veronica is the biggest culprit of hiding things in places where, how are you supposed to see that? Because the camera, you literally have to walk around pressing X or A or whatever you're playing. And then Claire drops down and then it's like, okay, this thing. It's like, okay, how was I supposed to see that? How was I supposed to see that when you got the camera angles looking jacked up? So you take the camera angles out of Resident Evil 4 and then you add like this dude that sells you these wares. And it kind of takes you out the immersion of the story. Like literally no other story did that and took the immersion out. What I will say about 8, and this isn't a bone. This is straight up just fact. The Duke is actually a character. And he's not just some random person that is just like no one else sees. Like he actually is in the environment and people actually know him. We don't know how people know him because no one ever acknowledges him or says, oh, I must speak with the Duke. Pardon me. Like no one says that. So it's like the immersion is a lot less disturbed in Resident Evil 8, but 4 most definitely very much disturbed with him involved. Resident Evil 4 is super duper flawed around the time when you meet Krauser. Because how is anyone supposed to know Krauser if they didn't play Darkside Chronicles, which is just a retelling of Code Veronica and Resident Evil 2, which we got a remake of. Okay. And introduces what, in my opinion, should have been the story of Resident Evil 4. Operation Javier. That whole tiny portion of Resident Evil Darkside Chronicles, Operation Javier, literally could have been stretched the crap out of to make a game, honestly. It's not like they're so long anyway. People complaining about how short Resident Evil is, if they're considering it short, I really don't care. I finished Resident Evil 8 in 11 hours. It's like, whatever. They can get bigger. I'm fine with that. Just give us more content. Don't give us more cutscenes and say, oh yeah, it's a longer game. No. No. If Operation Javier would have been Resident Evil 4, we wouldn't have been asking who Krauser was, because we would have been introduced to Krauser. And even then, I do believe they were working together before, so I think we should have had a game with Krauser introduced, and if you wanted to bring him back as a villain later, you could have done so. But Krauser, he's like, oh, we meet again. It's just like, did I miss something? You're pulling a Kingdom Hearts on me where we don't know who these people are because we didn't play Kingdom Hearts Birth by Sleep or Kingdom Hearts Rechain of Memories. You're pulling who's this Roxas fellow on me? Who's this Krauser fellow? No one knows Krauser. Krauser was not in 1. He wasn't in 2. He wasn't in 3. He wasn't in Code Veronica. He wasn't in anything. And then all of a sudden we're just supposed to know who Krauser is and we're supposed to feel bad when he dies? That's why I said Resident Evil 4 is super flawed, because it's just like, among everything that I've said about Resident Evil 4, it adds this person and kills them instantly. Why are you adding people and killing them instantly? You didn't have to do this before. Okay, tell me how many people died in 1. And we never see again. Rebecca survives. She was shot. She survives because she's in other movies in later on. She's in, I don't know if it's called Vendetta, but she's in there, and they're older then. Rebecca survives. Chris survives. Even Wesker survives. People say, oh, technically, he wasn't supposed to survive. I really don't care about technicalities, because guess what? He was here. He was until 5. I don't care about technicalities. I don't care about what used to be, what could have been. I don't care about Donna Beneviento if she was supposed to be a seamstress spider who could mend your wounds. She's not that now. She's just talking through Angie. I don't care about what could have been. I only care about what is. And what is what on earth. That's what it is. What on actual earth. Someone's going to have to explain to me how they like Resident Evil 4. I think people who like Resident Evil 4, they have to either not know what they're missing. They have to completely understand where Krauser came from. Why is Ada in that dress? She's just eye candy at this point. Why can't she be in operative uniform? Like she's on a mission. Why is she in a dress like that? it's just super, the immersion is just, it's just a joke. Resident Evil 4 is legitimately a joke. And people don't see it like this. People see it like, oh my goodness, that's so cool. You know good and well, if Hunk was in doing an operation for Wesker or whatever, whoever he works for, he would most definitely be in his outfit. He wouldn't be in no thong. So I don't understand why women have to do that as well. That makes no sense. I think it's just so gross. It's like eye candy and, oh, I can do this too. It's like, that's not what feminism is. If you're trying to do a feminism, that's not how you feminism. She should have been in full body gear because guess what? Las Plagas is everywhere with that dress. They could just wiggle up her dress. Honestly, I really don't understand. That was super dumb, super dumb. I really don't understand. How long are we going to keep doing this? Like, how many years have to go by on this earth? How many people have to die? How many people have to be born before we get women who are actually just respected? Like, even Jill, to a point, because she had to have that thing on her chest and we had to shoot it. And it's just like, okay, it's like, okay. If the roles were reversed, would it have been on Chris's chest? Or would it be on his back or something? Someplace respectable, but whatever. That is a nitpick, okay? That's not something that I have. If I have to sacrifice something, that can stay in there because there are so many problems with Resident Evil 4, 5. Everything beyond 4, like after 4, y'all get crazy. So you bring back the co-op thing in 5, but in 4, you just allow us to play as Ada for like 2 seconds. And I really don't even know if that's a part of the game. I really don't remember. I could have sworn that that was like the end when you beat it already. Then you get to play as Ada. And then you see Louis Sarah. I can't remember if it was in between or not. I do believe you get to play as her when Leon passes out or something. But like I said before, back to the best Resident Evil game in the world, Code Veronica, you spend a lot of time with Chris. As much time as you spend with Steve Burnside, he is not the side character. Chris is more the side character, if anything. He's more of a supporting actor. Steve Burnside, you play just as long with Steve as you do with Ada in 4. Like, this is really short. It's really short, and it's just like, it wouldn't be considered another story. It would just be considered what y'all did in 8, just like when Chris came. Y'all, if y'all really want to make Resident Evil games, just look at Code Veronica and do everything you did in there, except, the horrible things, like when you were being ridiculous with Ashford, that dude he was cross-dressing and she called him a freak. I did not like that. That's unacceptable and should be kicked out of the remake. You can say literally anything. I really don't understand why it has to go to transphobia, but whatever. I can understand how that could be transphobia. I can completely understand that. But all these things are what's wrong with Resident Evil 4. There's so many things. From Krauser just being introduced and killed in an instant to Ada just popping in for no reason. And Wesker, let's talk about Wesker, shall we? So Wesker's just turned into Thanos, just sitting in his chair, twisting around, waiting for things to drop. It basically is Thanos. Wesker basically is Thanos. And in Resident Evil 5, he comes to collect the stones. And he doesn't, honestly, it would have been nice to see Wesker actually succeed in his plan in 5, and 6 be what came after what happened to Wesker. 6 should have been Endgame. That's why everybody was in it, I thought that 6 was going to be the end. Why are we still going? It can end, Things can end. Things can have an end. If you guys wanted to do more, then you could have did prequels, you could have did chronicles, you could have did anything. Ethan Winter's story could have happened right as the Arcalay Mountains crap was going on, right as things were happening, but you had to put Chris in there to ruin his character even more. Not only with the character design, with the voice, with the personality, with the attitude. No one likes Chris anymore. You're just setting him up to die, honestly. It's really sad because, like I said, in Resident Evil Code Veronica, he was one of the best characters. He was built so well to the point where I was feeling kind of upset because they, at the expense of Claire's mentality, she kind of seems like despite doing all this crap, she like giving off very much damsel. By the end, she's giving off very much damsel. And I know y'all did that because when a man comes in the room, a woman has to be quiet and be meek. Like, and I hate that so much. I literally could like punch someone out. Like, I hate that so much. The meekness, just, ugh, stop freaking simping, but whatever. So, off that. Okay, so, like I said, Wesker was done dirty in 5. Wesker should have succeeded in his plans at 5, and then it would have been cool because then Chris and Sheva could have went to America. Chris and Sheva would have been a group in 6. And Pierce could literally be kicked the crap out. I could care less about Pierce. I literally will laugh on his grave. I don't care about Pierce. I don't care about Helen. I don't care about all those other people you try to make us care about. I don't care about Jake Mueller. Jake Mueller is a test baby because guess what? I do believe Albert Wesker may be gay. I don't think he laid down with no woman. Definitely not. But he's bisexual at best. But honestly, he didn't have no kid. That is a test baby with his DNA. Honestly, he ain't have no children. You cannot tell me that Jake Miller's his son. Whatever. I don't care how many tweaks and little perk things you give him to make him similar to Albert. He will never be Albert, and no one will ever like him. So this is a little thing that y'all could have did, right? Sheva and Chris would have been a group. That's group A, right? That would have been group A in Resident Evil 6. Group B could have been Claire and Leon coming back once again, just like they were in 2. That would have been amazing. Amazing. So amazing. And then the next group could have been Jill and Carlos. Oh my gosh, I can make better games than you guys. Oh my goodness. It's all coming together. We never get to see Carlos again. So what does he die? And Barry, if you wanted Barry in there, you could have thrown Barry in there. Barry and Sherry. Sherry and Barry. They could have been some group. Ada don't need to be in this. Why is she still here? I hate Ada. Just saying. I hate her. I hate her character. Y'all literally only throw her in there to make goo-goo eyes at Leon. That's literally all you guys do. And make her eye candy. That's it. She has no personality, really. She has nothing to offer. I can tell you the personality of Rebecca Chambers, right? Meek, feeble. I guess you could call her nice. Chris has changed so many times. I can't even give you a description of who Chris is. I can't because he's changed so much. Leon, I already told you about Leon. Claire, she's stone cold. She's cool. She's interesting. She's got the best characterization in Code Veronica until the end. Like I said, she becomes some crying, wailing widow when dude that she only knew for a day dies. But that's how women are, right? Cry at everything. Cry at dude dying in your face. But whatever. Resident Evil 6 could have been so great. Resident Evil 6 should have been the end, by the way. We didn't need 7. And if you were going to do 7 or Biohazard, whatever, you could have did a Biohazard distant series. Just like Resident Evil Revelations is a different series to the main titles. Biohazard should have been its own series. And I noticed that you guys were trying to do that, but like now you're playing word games with the Roman numerals. So what are we going to get next? Honestly, I really don't want to see unless it's Code Veronica Remake. Honestly, I don't want anything. I don't want anything else except Code Veronica Remake. How hard is that? How hard is that to do? Resident Evil 4 doesn't need a remake because you can still play that game and still be fine. Your eyes may hurt a little bit because it looks gross and disgusting. Everything looks nasty. But you can still play it and be just fine. Like Resident Evil Code Veronica, you cannot play and be satisfied with that game in this time. You can't. It's just not possible. And it's made even more impossible when it comes to those camera angles where you just got to keep shooting until you stop hearing the footsteps coming towards you. Like, that's just so annoying. That was so annoying. That was one annoying thing I had. Like, it's just like, ooh, like you got to keep shooting till the moaning stop because it's just like you can't see the zombies. And then if it gets too close, maybe it'll poison you. Maybe. But y'all took the poison aspect too. Like Leon, there could have been poisonings in that too. Like y'all take so much out of Resident Evil 4. It's basically like a easy bake oven. Like Resident Evil Code Veronica used to be a fully industrial oven, make 3 things at once, different times, and then you got your easy bake oven, Resident Evil 4. Tell me, after everything I've said about these games, which one's better? Resident Evil Code Veronica, who actually has at least the skeleton of what Resident Evil is from 1 to 2 to 3, or 4, which has nobody in it but Leon from 2. He's from 2. Why did you make Resident Evil 4 about Leon solely? How come from 1 to 2 we get transition that's halfway decent, because 3 has Jill in it from 1, and Claire is related to Chris from the first one, but Leon is in the 4th one and he has nothing to do with 3. The least y'all could have done was put Carlos in this. It actually seems like you were trying to put Carlos in this. I'm just hypothesizing that this dude's Hispanic. Who knows? He could be Indian. He could be whatever. I'm pretty sure Carlos is Hispanic. Especially since y'all picked a dude who played another Hispanic person in another game. The New Frontier, Javier. Yeah, I clocked him. I clocked him long before I knew who that guy was. Because he just keeps playing the same voice. It's real easy. It's really easy when you play the same voice to know it's the same character. When it's the exact same voice, no fluctuation, no changing anything. He just doesn't know what voice acting is. He just doesn't. And it's not anybody else's fault but his and the person who hired him for the job. I don't understand. He didn't even try. There's not even a time where it sounds like he's trying to sound like anybody else. Let me tell you something. DC Douglas, I've heard him talk. I don't know him personally, but he'd be cool to hang out with, it seems like, from his lives and whatnot. But he talked about how he got the role of Albert Wesker. They said it was like a voice matching, to where he had to listen to the person that did it before and try to voice match as good as possible. And they knew what they were doing when it came to that, because it's almost indistinguishable. It's almost indistinguishable. And I don't know if that's because he's such a great voice actor. I do believe he is. He has a lot of characters. I don't watch JoJo's Bizarre Adventure or whatever because it's bizarre. Like, I try to watch the first episode, and the whole thing with the apple tree and him that girl sitting under it, that was strange. I literally stopped after watching that episode. I was like, I can't. Y'all crazy. I just can't. I will watch Akake or Kuguru, whatever it's called. Durarara. I will watch all those crazy crap animes, but JoJo's Bizarre Adventures is too bizarre for me. It's just too bizarre for me. And that everyone's like, it's like, this is a different JoJo. It's just like, so what's this Doctor Who? But I digress from that. DC Douglas did a voice matching, and it's indistinguishable from the people who took the role before. That is good voice acting. There are different aspects of voice acting. This is one of them. When you are called for a role that already exists, a character that's already made canon, a character that everyone's already heard of, this isn't make your own character day. This isn't, oh, we'll see what happens day. This is do your job. And his job was to sound like Chris Redfield. He sounds like Carlos, except angry Carlos all the time. He sounds angry the entire time. Why did you guys do that? I don't understand. And then Heisenberg is Nikolai. Did you guys, are they like really cheap actors or something? Are they cheap? Is that why you got those two guys from Resident Evil 3 Remake? Is it because they're cheap? Is it COVID? Is it because you couldn't, like, honestly, COVID is a zero excuse for this, because you don't have to go into anywhere. You don't have to go on no set to be a voice actor. I could literally be on the toilet right now and y'all would never know. So I really don't understand why this dude got the voice role, and I don't understand why Heisenberg sounds like Nikolai. Like here's one thing that's really interesting. So the Nikolai dude, I hated Heisenberg's voice. The way he was taught, I liked the character. I love the character. The voice was off to me. And then I noticed and I clocked that it was Nikolai because he's the same dude. But this dude is a better voice actor than the dude that plays Carlos. Because here's the thing. It took me a second to realize that was Nikolai. It took a hot second. It took no seconds to hear Carlos's voice coming out of Chris Redfield's mouth. Somewhat Chris Redfield. Y'all I have no idea. It's a joke. Like I said, it's a joke at this point to change what he looks like. I'm not going to be surprised if in Resident Evil 9, Chris Redfield's turned into Chrisana. She's a girl now. Like, honestly, y'all don't even know what Chris Redfield looks like anymore. Literally, his face changed so many times. Jill has been the most standard face. Like, her nose has gotten a little bigger and her eyes have gotten a little bigger. But she's been through a lot. Okay? So it's like, I understand that. But her model has stayed similar throughout the whole series. And I know that 1 and 2 and all that, you could barely see their face, right? But there have been remakes. Claire has gone down the deep end with her brother because she looks strange in the remake. She looks like I said, they did baby face or something. They started from the model with a baby face. And then they added adult features on it because it's real strange. Real strange. Wesker has always been similar. Like, honestly, when you look at Wesker throughout the whole series, even from Code Veronica to 5, I can tell that that's the same person. He may not look exactly the same, but you can tell that that's the same person. Chris is the only one that y'all act like you have no idea what he looks like, when all you have to do is have eyes. And if someone doesn't have eyes or they're blind, they just need to not have that job. They can have any other job in the world, just not that job. They need to go somewhere else. What, is it someone's cousin, sister, mama, grandmama? Are you afraid to fire them because they're in your family? How about you not hire family then? Even Leon has had more consistency than any person in the history. And there's so many different versions of him because guess what? He's gotten more like sunshine and sun rays because he's not a woman and he's white, and that's it. That's literally it. Chris, the only reason why he hasn't had as much as Leon is because he's associated with Claire. Even association with a woman gives you less things, and it's super annoying. But all in all, honestly, there's really no reason to go to bat for Resident Evil 4. There's nothing that it has within itself to warrant its existence among all the other Resident Evils. Literally. Why did you send some Anglo-Saxon of the Caucasus Mountains to Spain without a translator? Why do you keep killing every ethnic person in your game? Every ethnic person. Rebecca gets shot and she survives, right? This meek little itty bitty girl. Yeah, she's a medic, but what are you going to do? Heart surgery on yourself? This little meek little girl survives a gunshot to the chest. But Rodrigo gets eaten up by a gulp worm and dies. Okay, whatever. Marvin gets bit by a zombie and dies. Whatever. Luis Serra gets impaled the crap out of. Carlos never gets seen again. We're just supposed to assume he died. Sheva can't leave Africa, supposedly. Oh, her jurisdiction's in Africa, despite Chris being able to go wherever he wants to go. He's from America. If you're from America, you get to go in anybody else's place. But if you're in Africa, you have to stay right there. Okay. Every ethnic person the only person that's ethnic because she's basically light. She's light. She has no skin tone. She's Asian. She's light. And even her, you got her running around, swinging from place to place in a dress. When you know good and well, she should be in some garb. She should be in some garb. Y'all even had her in some garb when you considered putting her in Resident Evil 8. Because you knew it's stupid, it's dumb, it's dum-dums to have a woman in a dress when there's viruses everywhere and contamination, and it's just stupid. It's just dumb. Yes, Resident Evil Code Veronica is cheesy, but when you're playing the game, you don't feel like it's cheesy. And another thing, music. Music is one big thing that is just lost now. In Resident Evil 8, did you clock any music that was memorable to you? Did you? Did you in 7? Did you in 6? Did you even in 5? You definitely didn't in 4. But in Code Veronica, in every place you went in, the music was magical. It fit the ambiance. It was like, it matched where you were with the zombies. It matched everything. Like, the music was so powerful in Resident Evil Code Veronica. It fit the eeriness of Resident Evil. Music used to be something that was important to the game. Now it's kind of just like barely music at all. Like stock music that you get free on your computer when you just boot it up. Honestly, get it to freaking together. Wasting my time. I'm not here to tell anyone that, oh, you're subhuman if you like Resident Evil 4. Like, I'm not here to say anything horrible. I'm not here to call anyone subhuman because they like a game. I'm not here to say you should jump off a cliff. I'm not here to say anything like that. I'm here to tell you, and I'm here to describe to you these things that I've noticed in Resident Evil 4 that is like, wait a second, why does anyone like this? Because this is wrong, and that is wrong, and this is wrong, and if this is wrong, then that's wrong. And then I give you examples. Krauser. Who's he? Who's Krauser? Darkside Chronicles, duh. But if no one played Darkside Chronicles, who is he? Why is he dying? Why are we supposed to feel sad? Why are you lingering on his body? We don't know him. But it'd be one thing if we all just met him in this game. But we didn't all just meet him in this game. He's supposedly someone that Leon knows very well. And that doesn't add to the whole quote-unquote mystery thing that I told you about in my previous video, where every Resident Evil has a mystery. It shouldn't be a mystery of who a person is when we already should know him as the character we're playing. I mean, this is an RPG, so role-playing, who the crap is this man? How are we supposed to get into the RPG-ness of it if we don't know who Krauser is? Another thing that Code Veronica does miles better than Resident Evil 4. Okay, so everyone knows that Resident Evil Code Veronica was released a few times. And a lot of things were switched, including Steve Burnside's hair and whatnot, and then how they introduced Wesker. Well, Wesker comes back, and Chris is like, we meet again, like, you know how they do that when someone comes back. We didn't have to play some bootleg side story on Wii to know where Wesker came from. That was from the first one. So that's pretty interesting that even a game, Resident Evil Code Veronica, that did not get enough respect to receive a number in the title sequence in the canon, does a better job at adding lore, keeping consistency, and building on characters we already know. Like, honestly, Resident Evil 4 does not do that. Just doesn't. It just doesn't. That's why I'm like so confused. Like, how do people say, oh my gosh, this is such a great game? Like, it's got to be people who never played Resident Evil, or the new people who came into Resident Evil who's saying it's the best one. But I digress. Why is Ada Wong in a dress running around? Why is Leon spitting out one-liners every 2 seconds? Like, this is a movie. Like, the whole thing about that. Claire may have done stuff like that, but the whole thing, Resident Evil Code Veronica, how it's done, like I said, with the music, with all the classical things that come with Resident Evil inside it, it's okay. 4 gives an excuse to everything that's wrong with Resident Evil now. That's the biggest issue. Resident Evil 4, its existence gives excuse for all following Resident Evil games to be crap and be like, no. You can't say that this came out of nowhere because we did this in 4. We did this in 4. We ruined the canon in 4, so you can't say that this came out of nowhere. Thanks. Thanks for giving them a reason to do whatever they want. That's why 8 is bad. 8 took a lot of sentiments and a lot of things from 4. So now we're kind of like stuck. We're stuck in limbo right now. Like, we're stuck, like, what are they going to do? Because they've got all this crap that they can like excuse further games that they make in the future and say, well, we did this in 6, we did this in 5, we did this in 4. So it's like, this is disgusting. We're at a very disgusting place right now. 8 really made me like open my eyes about how bad 4 really was. Honestly, like you have to take into consideration what I've said when you're talking about, oh, I enjoy 5. I really enjoy 5. I played 5 a lot more than any other of the I would consider everything past Resident Evil 4 to be new gen Resident Evil. New gen Resident Evil, I loved 5, not only because Wesker was in it a lot, but because Sheva is introduced. She's super paper bag. She went through the paper bag test and passed. She's light-skinned as all get out. We never see her again because, of course, we don't. We never see any ethnic people again. If they don't die, we're just to assume that they went on Forget Island, like where Carlos is. But the fighting was fun. No one really talked about how good or bad AI was until these 7 and 8, because 5, the AI was terrible. Like they looked at you, it was cool, but it's just like, it wasn't great, it wasn't spectacular. I didn't play it on no hard mode, so it was just like, it was what it was. Most of these things had actual weapons, and they were like attacking you with weapons, so it wasn't really a big deal for the AI to actually be a topic of conversation. But man, thinking about what could have been with Resident Evil 6 makes me so sick. Man, that could have been one sick game, man. That would have been so cool. But yet, you decided to give us Helen. Like, who cares about Helen? Raise your hand if you care about Helen, everybody. Raise your hand if you care about Pierce. No one? Wow. Every character in Resident Evil 6 that could have been played or could have been a side character should have been a character we already knew. That's it. This whole, oh, he's your father. Okay, no one cares. No one has any. Carla? Who's Carla? What is this thing? Why is Ada coming out of an egg sack? Like, what is this? What on earth is this crap? Why would anyone want to remake Ada? Ada's not that special. She's good at evading things. It's great. It's cool. And I never want to put down no woman. Give her dues where it's done. She hasn't had any infections, so it's like, that's great. As far as we know, she hasn't been infected with anything. That's amazing, because every single person has been infected. Every single person has been exposed. But I'm pretty sure she was exposed to Las Plagas because she didn't have not mask 1 when going into that situation. Leon didn't either, but guess what? He did get infected, so yeah. But 6, 5 to a less extent, but 4 most definitely, all have super big flaws that just make them unable to stand up or hold a candle to Resident Evil Code Veronica or anyone before that. Like I said, if anyone wants to come at me with, oh, you said you didn't like action. You can have action, but there was too much. There can be too much action. There can be too much ammo in a survival horror game. The game should be set to where you can use a knife and still be good. It can get done. It can get done. Someone's out there who's done it. So honestly, I mean, when it comes to things where you got to use the sniper rifle, of course, that's something you have to have in mind. But honestly, the biggest problem I have is the whole system of bringing in a dude who's gonna, oh, here's some money. Now there's a money system. Not good. Not good at all. Don't like that. Where's our storage? Like I said, there's so many things wrong with Resident Evil 4. Let's talk about it in the comments. Tell me a good thing about Resident Evil 4. How about that? Let's talk about it. And then I'll be like, okay, that's great. Or, let me tell you what you forgot that makes that not a good thing. But honestly, talk about it in the comments. I love listening to other people's point of view. So tell me something good about Resident Evil 4. And you can talk about something bad about Resident Evil Code Veronica. And then we can have that discussion. I don't know if I'm going to make a separate video for both of those things. But this one is basically coming to an end. kind of done. I don't know what else to tell you guys. If you, from everything that I've said, if you still like Resident Evil 4 as much as you did, I have no idea how. But like I said, let's talk about it in the comments and we can have a great time. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Keep a lookout on my channel for gameplay and other videos about video games and movies. I'm in the process of making my Netflix picks and bricks. So I hope you guys enjoy that one. Done.